All right, man, peace. So now this is going to be part 2 in the series that I'm doing on Mr. Kobe Bean Bryant and his clear associations with Luciferianism. That's why the title of the series is Kobe Bryant, Pupil of Lucifer. And many people are often confused with that term Lucifer because there is some obfuscation in regards to that concept and what it entails. What does that name Lucifer mean? And what are the associations of Luciferianism with quote-unquote Satan? The term Satan just means adversary. Satan is an adversary to the righteous here on the earth. In the spirit world, the Most High has no adversaries because he has no peers. Satan and his angels work for the Most High on the left-hand side. But that's another video for another day. The reason why I mentioned that is because Lucifer acts as an intermediary to mankind on the left-hand side. Lucifer is a concept to describe enlightenment or illumination for mankind via the left-hand side. Christ himself represents Lucifer on the right-hand side. That's why he's known as the day star. Many people get thrown off by this, especially so-called Bible thumpers, because they're taught to associate names with ideologies, and that's not always the case. As I've described in numerous videos on this channel, the same symbol has a right-hand meaning and a left-hand meaning. The term serpent or dragon has a right-hand meaning and a left-hand meaning. Lion as a symbol has a right-hand meaning and a left-hand meaning. And you have to understand that when you get caught up in the doctrine that a certain symbol always means one thing, you're going to get lost in zeal. Zeal is okay, but only when it's based in knowledge. And still, it has to be monitored. Anyone who's overly zealous has to be monitored because they're liable to become an extremist. Once again, just getting back to the point, what is Luciferianism? Luciferianism, in the worldly sense, is when you embrace the knowledge of the left-hand path. That being witchcraft, the veneration of the quote-unquote heavenly bodies, idolatry of anything fleshly, or the concepts that are taught and propagated on the left-hand side. And Mr. Kobe Bryant is clearly an acolyte, an initiate of the quote-unquote left-hand path. And he's unabashed about it. As I've told you, brothers, in numerous videos, you have to watch for a lot of different things. I make these videos because I know that for the most part, the so-called black man does not know what he's looking at. And you are the target, so-called black man. Please understand that you are the target. And that's why they try to awash you in many of these Luciferian principles, because they need you to get caught up in their bullshit. Because once they have you, they have the world. Okay? That's truly what it's about. That's why there's such a concerted effort to make the so-called black man believe that in order for him to be saved, for him to have an earthly salvation, he has to cast his lot in with many of these Luciferian movements like feminism, the homosexual movement, transgenderism, etc. These are all hermetic philosophies that they want you to get captivated and encapsulated by, so that you have less and less chance to restore your connection to the Most High. That's truly what they want for you, so-called black men, because you're the target once again. No one else is really the target. You're the main target. And they use affluent athletes like Kobe Bryant to reel you in, because they know that one of the so-called black man's Achilles heels is that he will oftentimes get too captivated by prominent athletes, entertainers, etc. They know that, so they use many of these top athletes as proxies. They will give them fame and fortune, and all they have to do is dispense many of these hermetic, esoteric teachings to the masses and hope that they can drag you along. Once again, just getting back to the video, as we can see here, we left off at part 1, and Kobe Bryant was acting as if he was teaching the quote-unquote little mamba. It's the mamba that's actually teaching him. The mamba is acting as a psychological construct that Kobe has conjured out of the fourth dimension somewhere. He is the great teacher, that serpent. For you brothers out there who have ever delved into many of the quote-unquote mythological teachings or renderings or esoteric or occultic teachings, you'll know how dominant the role of the serpent is. Because as I've told you, the serpent has a representative force on both the right-hand side and the left-hand side. The serpent represents wisdom. It represents being a divine teacher. That's why, once again, what did Christ tell his disciples? He said to be as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. The serpent / dragon always represents preeminence, rulership, wisdom, dominance. And you'll see that all throughout the Bible and in many other philosophies that are on the left-hand side. As I've stated in other videos, Cush and Nimrod sought to take the teachings of Noah and apply them to themselves. So where Noah taught his sons about the Most High and about the promised emancipator, the promised savior, that being Christ, who was going to redeem his people, take away the curse of the people, that being the nation of Israel, and restore them unto power, Cush took those teachings and bastardized them and set himself up as the divine high priest, and he set himself up as the great king over the entire earth, his son being Nimrod. Now, when Nimrod was killed, his wife / mother, Semiramis, lied and stated that Nimrod was being reincarnated in her womb. When she brought forth the child, known as Heru or Horus, he was deified as someone who had been brought forth to shine a divine light on mankind. This is why oftentimes a lot of these brothers who get caught up in these esoteric philosophies, they state that the Bible got this from ancient Kemet, or the Bible got this from the Enuma Elish in Sumer. It's because Cush and Nimrod sought to write themselves in to the prophecies that were taught by Noah. Only Shem honestly and diligently maintained the original teachings of Noah out of Noah's 3 sons. That is why when you read Genesis, the 9th chapter, it details that the Most High is the God of Shem, not the God of Ham or the God of Japhet, only the God of Shem, because he is the only son who maintained the teachings of his father Noah diligently. Okay? Ham took those teachings and bastardized them. His son Cush, who was the great architect, the grand architect of many of these esoteric / occultic philosophies today, he was the architect of the Babylonian mystery school system, and he applied all of those prophecies unto his son Nimrod, so that his son could rule with might and valor. That's why he was called a mighty hunter before the Lord. Really what that implies is that he was able to take the men who were being taught to worship the Most High and turn them towards worshiping him. All the people of the earth started to worship Nimrod and worship his father, who was viewed as the great advisor. His father Cush is known in history as Hermes or Mercury in the ancient Roman philosophy, or Agni in the Hindu religion. That is who Cush was known as. He's known as the great goat god, the stag god of fertility, also the god of pederasty. He was the originator of sex magic, or the reinvigorator of it, because that is what mankind was doing before the flood that caused the world to be destroyed. Cush was able to reinvigorate many of those practices. And of course, his son Nimrod, who was the great hunter, took it to the next level. Nimrod was also known as Asar or Osiris. He was also known as Marduk, as Saturn, as Amun-Ra, the hidden god. Some of these gods are composite entities of both the Father and the Son. But when you delve into the history of ancient Kemet, they ruled in a co-regency where Cush was known as Pharaoh Menes. The term Menes means the numberer, or to number. Why is that? Because Cush, or Hermes, or Tahuti, whatever you want to call him, he was the person who brought mathematics, astronomy, writing to mankind. He was a great engineer as well. He truly brought civilization to mankind after the flood. His son Asar taught mankind about horsemanship, how to tame animals. That's why he was known as the centaur. That term, the centaur, meaning the priest of the bull god. When you see anyone depicted with horns, the horns represent leadership. Like the image of the Taurus. That's a great leader. You brothers who read the scriptures, you know when you read Isaiah the 34th chapter, and it tells you about the bulls of Bashan, it's talking about leaders. Whenever you see an ancient figure depicted with the helmet with the horns, that represents leadership. Okay? I'm just trying to give you, brothers, some background into a lot of the practices that you see today being hidden in plain sight, which is where we come to Mr. Kobe Bryant, who's wearing the all black for Saturn. He is a Saturnian. He's also a pansexual, allegedly. Allegedly. Okay? Once again, sex magic is part of their belief system. They believe in the melding of the sexes, that there is no such thing as gender. And just as Michael Jordan was the master for Kobe Bryant, and of course he was Michael Jordan's apprentice, Kobe Bryant also has modern day apprentices. That being Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Those are his apprentices. He is leading them down the golden path of alchemy, transformation, solve e coagula. He's helping them transform from lead into gold. That is the mystery in Superman, in that film where Lois Lane sits down with Superman. Remember that first interview? I'm talking about for some of you older brothers who may have seen this film, but it's a classic film. So even many of you younger brothers most likely have seen it with Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. Margot Kidder, by the way, was an MK asset, but I'll be covering her in another video sometime in the near future. Remember, she's interviewing Superman, who is Baal, who is the serpent god. He represents Heru, the sun god, S-O-N and S-U-N. She's sitting down interviewing him, and she asks him if he has any weaknesses, and he says yes. He says, I cannot see through lead. Why was that Superman's weakness? Because the planet where he comes from, Krypton, and the term Krypton means the planet of secrets. Please understand that Saturn is known as the hidden god, or the god of secrets, as is Amun-Ra, the hidden god, the god of secrets. That is the Superman, that is Heru. Krypton, where he comes from, also known as the ice planet, is Saturn. Saturn in the ancient mythologies was known as the ice planet because it was the farthest planet from the sun that was visible. And in alchemy, the metal that is aligned with Saturn is lead. The metal that is aligned with the sun is gold. So that is what the alchemical pathway of life, that golden path that all the initiates must walk on, is about. Is turning yourself from lead into gold. It's about illuminating yourself. Going from the base chakra at the groin, being illuminated by having your pineal gland open, your third eye opened, the sixth chakra. That is why you see them exalt that number 6 so much, because that opens the window on the left-hand side to godhood. And they start to embrace many of the practices of witchcraft. One of them being what's known as scrying. S-C-R-Y-I-N-G. What is that? That's when a witch or wizard or what have you looks into a reflective surface to try to gain insight into the future. And I'll be touching on that concept of scrying in another video with another so-called celebrity who's also a witch that I've been telling you brothers about for a while now, who recently revealed herself as being someone who has risen up another level due to her obedience to the craft. But once again, that's another video for another day. As we can see here, Kobe Bryant is going to take what he's trying to convey to the audience to another level. And I have so many brothers who are Laker fans try to go back and forth with me. That's why I always say this is not a fanboy channel. Oh, the reason why the background is purple is because that's Laker colors. No, it's not, nigga. That represents the third eye. The color for the third eye is indigo, which is a purplish color. And when you get to the 7th chakra, which is basically communication with the spirit world, the color is purple. Okay? So it goes from indigo, which is a purplish color where you're opening your third eye, your pineal gland, all the way to the 7th chakra, which is quote-unquote godhood. Or as they say in the Kabbalistic tree of life, I believe the term is Kether, Kether, the crown. That's where you become a god. That's why in Masonry or in some of these alternative belief systems like the so-called black man, the 5%ers, they call themselves gods. Because they're saying that their quote-unquote third eye is open. They know all things, allegedly. A lot of these cats out here are Luciferians, don't even know it. They don't even know it. But anyway, let's let this video run, and of course, I'm going to chime in.
Destroy, dominate, destroy, dominate, destroy, dominate!
You okay, little mamba?
Yeah, I'm dark musing. This is the face of a man with a dark muse case. Darkness!
You know, dark musings alone aren't enough to destroy the competition.
Now, did you brothers hear what Kobe Bryant just stated? He stated that dark musings alone are not enough to destroy the competition. In other words, if you want to become a champion, you have to tap into the spirit realm. Once again, that is why Phil Jackson aligned Kobe Bryant with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the person, the Svengali, the guru, who informed Kobe Bryant on how to tap into those energies. Because Michael Jordan is a monarch asset himself. Michael Jordan is proverbial Baal/Asar. And one can tell, if you pay attention and you know what you're watching, with everything from the number that he was assigned, to how he was raised, to how his career played out. When he was forced to go away after the death of his father and come back and wreak havoc on the NBA. The way in which he was programmed, how he was drafted, how they changed the insignia on the team to show that there were triggers that were implanted in the organization to make sure that they maximized Michael Jordan's programming. But once again, that is another video for another day. Let's get back to Kobe Bean Bryant and what he's going to do while he's communicating with his teacher, the serpent god, who he's acting like he's teaching, but that's actually his teacher.
If you truly want to dominate, you're going to have to learn the game at a higher level. Who are your favorite players?
Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Not you.
Now, why did Kobe Bryant have the little mamba, his god, mention Russell Westbrook and James Harden? Because those are two of his apprentices. Those are two of his understudies in the craft. The third one being Kyrie Irving. There are quite a few throughout the NBA. But those are two of his main understudies.
The crystal ball of Kansas City. Anything you ever need to know about sports lives in its light.
Hey, brothers, did you hear that? Did you hear what the little mamba stated when Kobe Bryant conjured up the crystal ball? It stated the crystal ball of Kansas City. Why is that? Remember the film Wizard of Oz? When Dorothy had to travel from the physical world into the spirit world, she had to go over the rainbow. She had to leave Kansas. Kansas represents understanding at a very, very low level. Basic understanding. When you're able to go to Wonderland or Oz or Neverland, or for modern day Negroes, Wakanda, that represents a trip over the Rainbow Bridge. The Rainbow Bridge is the connection from the physical world to the spiritual world. Dorothy's third eye was opened. Okay? In the same way in the film E.T., when E.T. spoke to Elliot at the very end of the film, and E.T. represented Pan, E.T. pointed to Elliot's third eye and told him, "I'll be right here." E.T. was a conjured spirit that Elliot was able to communicate with over Halloween, because Halloween is a so-called holiday that, from the Celtic occultic understandings, allowed demonic spirits to come from the spirit world into the physical world and imbue you with a higher level of understanding. Remember, what the film E.T. was actually about was a young boy who was looking for guidance and inspiration. And that's where E.T. came in. And remember, when E.T. left, he went back over the Rainbow Bridge. I've mentioned this in other videos. When you watch the film Thor, Thor is just a Nordic version of Superman. He and Loki, who represents his twin counterpart, his Gemini counterpart, they go to war with one another on the Rainbow Bridge. The Rainbow Bridge went from Asgard all the way to any of the quote-unquote 9 realms. Okay? So in all these films, they're trying to teach you the same thing. They're trying to slowly introduce the populace at large to Luciferian principles and ideologies and make you comfortable with them. And you're going to see, especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as they progress into their third phase, that they're going to start introducing more and more homosexual images, female supremacy images in these films. I'm going to mention that. I'm going to delve a little bit more into that in other videos. But Colby's telling you right here that in order for you to be an ultimate champion, in his view, you have to delve into Luciferianism, because that's what he was taught by his teachers.
Do you know the spell?
Oh, I do. We learned it.
Hey, brothers. For those of you who told me that Colby's not dealing with Luciferianism or witchcraft, did you hear what he just said? He asked the serpent, do you know the spell? Remember in part 1, a book appeared over his head, and I said, what? I said, that looked like a spell book. Remember that? Go back and watch part 1. He's confirming that right here. He's a witch. Let me rewind this back.
The crystal ball of Kansas City. Anything you ever need to know about sports lives in its light.
Do you know the spell?
Oh, I do. We learned it in Musology 101. Crystal ball. Show me your secrets. Show me them all. I want to see Russell. I want to see James. Teach me. Better my game.
All right, I'm going to pause it right here, because now they're going to go into some highlights with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Point being is this: what Kobe Bryant just acted as if he was teaching the serpent how to do is something in witchcraft circles known as scrying. S-C-R-Y-I-N-G. S-C-R-Y-I-N-G. So when you look into a reflective surface and you're able to see the future, allegedly see the future, really you're trying to project what you want your future to be into a reflective object so that you can put yourself into a trance. Really, you're trying to project what you want your future to be into a reflective object so that you can put yourself into a trance. Open up your third eye and try to make those things your new reality. Scrying is a practice that goes back to the ancient Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. It comes from the mother goddess, quote unquote mother goddess, known as Hathor. She had a reflective shield, what they call the magic mirror. In the magic mirror, she could always reveal the truth. And you'll see Mother Goddess worship all across the society today. Many modern Luciferian liberal black women now are trying to promote worship of the Mother Goddess. So many of you brothers better watch out for that, because many of them are adherents to the Mother Goddess worship system. Please keep that in mind. That's the same mentality that's causing so much antipathy between the so-called black man and black woman. But once again, what you just saw from Kobe and that serpent, and as I've been telling you in the last 2 parts, the serpent is playing a role, is acting as if it's a student so that Kobe can be put in a glorified position, but the serpent is actually the teacher. Okay? Known in the ancient cultures as Asclepios, the teaching serpent. That's why you have in Rome, you have the Vatican, which is known as the House of Serpents. That's where the Pope is. What is the Pope? Who is the Pope? The Pope is just the modern day vicar of the great high priest of the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system, starting all the way back from Cush and Nimrod, They held the crook and the flail. They wore the headpiece of the pharaoh. Compare the headpiece of the pharaoh with the headpiece of the Pope. The Pope wears the headpiece of Dagon, the fish head, because after Asar was killed, he was thrown into the river and he emerged out as a fish, as a new man, half fish out of the waters, reborn, reinvigorated. So the Pope wears the headpiece of Dagon. He also carries what's known as the lightus, the bent staff, which is just the modern day crook, also known in the witchcraft circles as the magic wand. When you watch the Star Wars films, what they call the lightsaber is actually just the magic wand. That's all that is. Or you watch the Harry Potter films, they have that long wooden branch that they hold and they can fire bolts out of it. That's just a lightsaber. That's a magic wand. It's all talking about the same thing. That's why Harry Potter has that lightning bolt in the middle of his head. That lightning bolt represents enlightenment, opening of his third eye, the pineal gland. The god Agni in the ancient Hindu religion also had that lightning bolt in the middle of his forehead. For those of you brothers who are familiar with certain comic book characters, there's a comic book character known as Shazam in DC. He has that lightning bolt on his chest. They use comics and comic book movies to introduce a lot of witchcraft principles to the public. That's why you'll see many of these comic book characters wear costumes that have a red and blue color theme. The bringing together of the red level and the blue level, fire and ice, as above, so below. Those are Saturnian principles, the bringing together of opposites. Okay? All right, so we pretty much get it. Colby and the serpent are looking into the crystal ball to see the future for James Hardhead and Russell Westbrook. They're both initiates under Kobe Bean Bryant and the Luciferian system that has been taught for ages and was told to Kobe, taught to Kobe, instructed upon Kobe by Michael Jordan and other high-level Luciferian practitioners in the sports world, allegedly. Everything I'm saying is alleged. Everything I'm saying is alleged, but I'm going to delve deeper into these topics in other videos, particularly pertaining to Mr. Michael Jordan. But yes, Kobe's a witch. You can't get around that. Some of you guys try to talk around it in part 1. He's showing you how he's looking into a crystal ball. Here in part 2, he asked the serpent, do you know the spell? Okay? When these guys mention God, they're not talking about the God of the Bible. They're talking about Asar. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, Asar / Osiris or Baal. So all the principles, all the rituals that go along with that type of worship, that is what they do. And when you study the Osirian or the Bacchanalian mysteries, that means orgies. That means the veneration of transgenders or hermaphrodites. That means the worship of the goat god, Pan. Please understand that the god of witches is Pan, the goat god. Also known by the Celtics or the Celts as Cernunnos, the stag god, the deer god, who had sex with children. Okay? And I'll be touching on some of those concepts in other videos relatively soon. But let's skip ahead here because we already get the point in regards to this. Okay, so now we've skipped forward in this video. They're about to end their little montage with Russell Westbrook and James Harden.
Use on and dominate.
Whoa! Whoa! I'm a beast! I want to dunk on someone's face and yell at them. I want to score, assist, rebound.
Now, as you can see, the serpent has been transfigured. After looking into the crystal ball, he has found what he wants his fate to be. That's the point of scrying, is to figure out what you want to do, what your fate is going to be, trying to transmit your own thoughts in regards to what you want your future to be, and then programming yourself to believe that that is what your eventual fate is going to be by opening up your third eye. So now the serpent has been transfigured into a hybrid of James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Look at Kobe's face.
I want steals. I want blocks. I want a quintuple double!
Muse Cage.
And I'm guessing on some other planet, this is supposed to be for children. All right, so now we've jumped ahead to another commercial series that Kobe Bryant did way back in the day, where this was the first hint that I had in regards to Kobe's true associations, his true affiliations. It was a commercial series that he did for Nike called the Kobe System, where basically he's going to convey to the viewing audience in an allegorical way that he's been illuminated, he's been enlightened, that the capstone on his pyramid has been enlightened, that he has ascended to quote-unquote godhood. That is what the pyramid represents. When you put the capstone on the pyramid, that means that you've opened up your third eye, you've opened up your pineal gland, and you've been illuminated. When you look at the emblem here, it says level 1, success. That's a pyramid, and then you have the radiance emanating from the top of the pinnacle. The top of that pyramid from an anthropomorphic perspective is known as the 0 point. The 0 point concept is like ground state level energy exchange in a quantum mechanical system. Like, for example, when you see in certain films that a character is going from the physical world into a whole other world, oftentimes it will be depicted as them getting caught in a tornado or them spiraling downward. You'll see the spiral spinning and they're traveling down the spiral to another world. When they reach the middle point of that spiral, that's the 0 point. And then they descend downward into another world. It's almost like an hourglass. When you put sand into an hourglass, you turn it over, the sand starts to drain out from the top into the bottom, but right in the middle of that hourglass, that represents the 0 point. Or like a crossroads, when you have an X, if you were to stand in the middle of that X, that is the 0 point. That's the ground state level of energy exchange in a quantum mechanical model. It's pretty much the same concept that's used in the hypothetical theory in regards to being able to travel from one dimension into another, what they call a wormhole. So anyway, let's see here what Mr. Kobe Bryant has to say. Pay very close attention to the people that were involved in this commercial series, because they are all worshippers, venerators of Pan, Asar, Saturn, etc. Now, when you pay very close attention to the people who appeared in this commercial as they were spotlighted, you'll see that all of them are relatively notable figures, whether it be Kanye West, Serena Williams, Tony Robbins, Aziz Ansari, Jerry Rice. All of them are notable. Many of them have had rather precipitous falls from grace, being associated with the hashtag #MeToo movement. That just shows you the level of entitlement that they've had, and also as being members of the craft, they have to be involved in the furtherance of certain agendas, whether they like it or not. If it means that a Tony Robbins, that an Aziz Ansari have to be involved in Me Too scandals to participate in the great work, the upliftment of the feminine principle, then that is what they have to deal with, even if it costs them their jobs, their careers, their life. They've already been bought out anyway. As soon as they bought themselves into the entertainment industry, they've lost any and all abilities to control wherever their life goes from here. And as many of us understand, you have certain athletes who are monarch athletes who have been involved in genetic engineering or who are a part of the transgender agenda. I'll pretty much leave it at that. Serena Williams. Allegedly. And then you have other people who have appeared in this commercial who clearly are very, very high level Luciferians / Masons, whatever you want to call them. They've been illuminated. That's why they're in this commercial. Okay? Okay, so now this is another commercial that was in the Kobe System series, of course, highlighting Miss Serena Williams. I myself have never truly understood the so-called black man's infatuation with Serena Williams, not just because of her rather mannish body, but because she's made it very clear over the years that in order for her, in her view, to achieve a high level of success, she had to make sure that her end game would be that she would always end up with a Caucasian man. That's what she stated. Her and her sister stated this many years ago. They stated that a so-called black woman who was famous had to eventually either marry a Caucasian man or become a lesbian. And that was a very controversial story when it first emerged in the early 2000s. They denied it vociferously, of course, but it ended up pretty much being true, because the vast majority of males that both Venus and Serena have been affiliated with have been Caucasian. And I'm sure, once again, people will claim, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Serena was with Common, she was with Drake, she was with Jackie Long. Look, those were her homegirls. I'll leave it at that, okay? Allegedly. Those were her homegirls. Those stories were put out there to augment her quote-unquote downness and to augment the image that they were trying to push as quote-unquote ladies' men. Okay? But when you're talking about that industry, they already know what the real deal is and what the real story is. In regards to her so-called husband, quote-unquote, Alexis Ohanian, one of my first videos was about that situation when they were engaged and the so-called black man was all over the internet losing his mind because Serena Williams was engaged to that so-called Caucasian man, woman, transgender, whatever that person is, whatever that creature is. Her and him were matched together. So don't worry about rituals that happen in the entertainment industry, so-called black man. There are many other real females out there for you. There are many very, very beautiful women of color, black women period, out there for you. You don't have to worry about Serena Williams. Okay? Her backside has been spanked just like a tennis racket. Ain't nobody thinking about her. But anyway, let's pay very close attention to this imagery right here in this commercial. As you can see right behind her, Kobe Bryant only has his left eye illuminated, going down the left hand path or the left eye path. So he is showing himself as the physical manifestation of Heru, which makes sense because he is on that path of alchemy, of transformation. He's gone from lead to gold. Remember, in alchemy, the metal gold is aligned to the sun. Heru is the sun god. So oftentimes you'll see that color yellow or gold be highlighted next to a person who has been illuminated when they've gone down the path. Let's listen to what Miss Serena Williams has to say about her embracing the Kobe system. Hey guys, you see that hand sign that she's throwing up right there? It's very similar to the so-called diamond that became popular when the witch, the warlock, Jay-Z rose into prominence in the mid-90s throughout the early 2000s. He became famous for throwing up that sign, which is a sign, of course, more towards the veneration of the mother goddess and sex magic. As you can see here, she's throwing up the pyramid with her two forefingers interlocking into an X to show illumination. Her third eye has been opened. That is what she's saying. She's been illuminated. She understands the bringing together of opposites, as above, so below. Also notice once again, she's wearing all black. She is a Saturnian. She does not believe in gender. That's why I stated a very long time ago when I did that video on her engagement. I believe not only is she a transgender, so is her alleged husband, Alexis Ohanian. Just my view of it. And once again, everything I'm saying is alleged, all right? It's all alleged. Okay, so now here's another entry in the Kobe System series. And I want you guys to just pay very close attention to a word that this contributor to the Kobe System series will use throughout this little segment here, he's constantly going to use the word pyramid. Why is that? Because that is what this Colby System series is actually meant to exhort the viewer into embracing, is the understanding of enlightenment by climbing up the path of the pyramid. You want to make sure that you activate your pineal gland so that you can utilize what they call Christ consciousness, quote unquote. You become a proverbial savior or God. Once again, this is all about the bastardization of the prophecies of the real Christ. Ham and Cush took those ideologies that were taught to them and they tried to adapt them unto themselves and bastardize them. And Cush raised his son Nimrod to exhibit all the traits of the great Savior, who had already been foretold to come many years later and redeem his people and set the stage for mankind to be redeemed from death, the elect of mankind, that being the nation of Israel. And this is why the current rulers of this world are trying to teach the various tribes and nations and tongues of this world to venerate Asar, because they understand that in the teachings of the Bible, Christ came for his people, for his nation of people. And he tells you that in Matthew the 15th chapter and the 24th verse. Asar was trying to be the savior, the emancipator for all of mankind. And the emancipation that he brought was liberation from worshiping the Most High. So that is why they do this. And they're able to recruit many celebrities who feel as though they owe their fame and all the success that they've been able to accrue to embracing these Luciferian principles. But let's pay very close attention to this character right here. I believe that this is Paul Rodriguez's son. For those of you who don't know who Paul Rodriguez is, he was a very famous Mexican comedian in the 80s and 90s. This, I believe, is his son, who's a skateboarder. Now, did you see how often he used the word pyramid throughout this commercial? That was purposefully written that way for those in the know who are watching this commercial to understand what it's actually in reference to. And he states that it's more like an upside down pyramid non-scheme. We know the upside down pyramid is for the mother goddess. So a lot of these principles are communicated to the viewing audience in a very indirect, subliminal, subconscious way, so that they can permeate into your thought process and lean you more towards Luciferianism. Okay, so now we have here the famous, and by this time infamous, Kanye West, who also participated in the Colby System commercial series. And of course he is part of it because he was raised in the programming. He's a monarch child, trained up and taught by his father to be a quote-unquote chosen one, which is a phrase that is embedded into the subconscious minds of MK assets, whoever they may be. That's a video for another day. But Tiger Woods was told that he was a quote-unquote chosen one by his father, Earl Woods, and we all know that Mr. LeBron James is known as a chosen one. So do I believe that LeBron is an MK athlete? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But let's hear what Mr. Kanye West has to say. You see how they have them all have to throw up that sign at the end of every commercial entry? What are they really telling you? They're telling you that they're part of the craft. They're part of the quote-unquote fraternity / sorority / brotherhood, sisterhood. They all make up bricks in that proverbial pyramid that they're trying to build up to restore the outward ideologies, because they're tired of hiding it. They're tired of having to mask what they believe in. The entertainment industry and the so-called elite have been adhering to these principles for many, many years, and they've had to hide it. Whether it be ritual blood sacrifice, cannibalism, pederasty, zoophilia, celestial body worship, veneration of the sun, the moon, necromancy, scrying. They're tired of hiding all of it. And they're about to bring it all to the forefront in a big way. Except they have to try to keep chipping away at the social consciousness of the masses, because every time they try to come too hard with it, the masses reject it. So they have to chip away incrementally. They've gotten everyone to accept homosexuality and lesbianism. Then the next phase was transgender. Soon it'll be pedophilia. That's one of their main principles that they adhere to. When you hear someone say that they're pansexual, please keep that in mind. What does that mean? That means they believe that they should be able to have sex with a child and an animal. Because remember, if it was just about having sex with a man or a woman, they call themselves bisexual. When they say pansexual, that means what? What else is there to have sex with or to be attracted to? Animals and children. Okay? Also, in regards to Kanye West, please keep in mind, as I've already stated, that Kanye West has been a part of the program, quote unquote, since his birth. He was raised up in the programming by his father, Ray West, or allegedly, he was raised up in the programming by his father, Ray West, who is an auditor and a relatively high official with the Church of Scientology. Beyond that, please remember that when Kanye West decided that he was going to awake out of the sunken place, crawl out of the rabbit hole that he had buried himself in, deep under the programming, under the witchcraft of the Kardashian witch coven. Remember one of the first things that he stated in one of his tweets in support of Donald Trump. He stated that both me, meaning Kanye West, and Donald Trump are brothers because they're both part of the serpent energy. They both adhere to the veneration of the serpent energy. What was Kanye West talking about? He was talking about illumination. Their God, their spirit guide, is the grand divining serpent on the left-hand side, whatever you like to call him. When you research or study the pagan mythologies, you'll find oftentimes that the supreme deity figure is likened unto a serpent, whether it be Zeus or what have you. As I've told you, brothers, certain totemic symbols have a resonance or have a relevance on both the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Remember when Christ was speaking to Nicodemus in John the 3rd chapter, he told him, just as the serpent was risen up, the Son of Man has to be lifted up also. Speaking about the book of Numbers, when Moses had to raise the brazen or copper serpent up over the people to heal them. So the serpent has a symbolic relevance or resonance on the right-hand side and also on the left-hand side, where he's likened unto Heru, or the great divining teacher. Always understand that Apollo also was likened unto a serpent. Who was Apollo? Apollo is the Greek version of Heru or Horus. So when Kanye West stated that he and Donald Trump both had the serpent energy, he was talking about mind activation. They both ascended to a higher level of understanding in regards to who it is that they venerate, who they worship. The creature that Kobe Bryant was referring to in his little featurette as Little Mamba, when he was acting as if he was teaching the serpent, when in reality the serpent is his spirit guide. They're all members of the same craft. That's why I did that video pertaining to Kobe Bryant acting as if he was castigating Kanye, when in reality he was pretty much just calling Kanye West out for not being as prudent and as shrewd as he was supposed to be. There are levels, even within the Luciferian craft, in regards to who is intelligent enough to be entrusted with certain secrets. Kanye West does not have the intellect to be entrusted with a certain level of secrets, while Kobe Bryant does. But they both adhere to the same understanding, that being the serpent energy, or as it's also called, the Kundalini effect, or the winding serpent going up the spinal cord, up the chakras, to the 6th chakra in the brow, the pineal gland, getting open, getting activated, opening that doorway to the heavens, what's known as transcendental meditation. That is why the CIA started to investigate and experiment into the uses of LSD and PCP, things of that nature. That is why that is a cornerstone of the mind control program, because it can cause people to disassociate, to make them believe, whether correctly or incorrectly, that they're able to communicate with beings from the spirit world. That's what this is all about. Once again, when you see that emblem of the pyramid with the two lines going beyond the pinnacle, that pinnacle on the top of the pyramid represents the third eye. Once the third eye is activated, then that person starts to be illuminated. They start to shine. They achieve godhood, quote unquote. That's all this is about, the Kobe system and all that other stuff. All these people are assets. Kobe Bryant is an asset. Nike is a Luciferian organization. That's why they use those symbols. So anyway. Okay, so now this will be the last segment in reference to Mr. Kobe Bryant and his clear Luciferian ties and his adherence to many of these esoteric principles that permeate the upper levels of the entertainment industry. Once again, all your top level athletes and actors and actresses, etc., politicians, world leaders, they are venerators of Heru. And once again, Kobe's going to show you here in this little mini segment. He has a partnership with ESPN with a production company called Details, in which he basically goes over many of the intricacies of the NBA film so that he can raise the understanding and the acumen of fans and players in regards to what's going on the floor. But pay very close attention to the symbolism that's used for his company Details.
Here's our sneak peek of Kobe Bryant's new show, Detail. Take a look at this.
Do you see that? As you can see, what is supposed to be the letter A is actually a pyramid. And at the pinnacle of the pyramid, it is being illuminated. Right in the midst of the pyramid is the basketball, which is meant to replace what they call the wajet in the ancient Kemetic religion, which is just that eye of good omen, aka the eye of Ra or the eye of Hathor or the eye of Heru. Once again, Kobe Bryant is a Luciferian. You see how it gets brighter and brighter? It is showing you how he has been, quote unquote, illuminated. And all it means to be illuminated is that you understand the true meaning of many of the, quote unquote, esoteric religions. I have little doubt that Kobe Bryant is an adherent to the Kabbalah, which is a, quote unquote, tree of life. The 10 Sephirots, which is basically the pathway to illumination, or the Kether, the crown, where he's able to tap into the spirit world. That is what many of these top level athletes do, what they call transcendental meditation. They're talking about their ability to communicate with spirits, which allow them to raise to a higher level of proficiency in their chosen field of endeavor. Okay? That is their brotherhood. I don't even like to use the term Illuminati because it's taken on such a pop cultural connotation that as soon as people hear that term, they just tune you out. But all the term illuminated or Illuminati means is to be, quote unquote, enlightened, to be brought into the true knowledge, quote unquote, of the left-hand path, which is Heru, or who Aleister Crowley called Aiwass, Aiwass, which is a spirit that he stated communicated to him the dictates of Horus or Heru, aka Harpocrates. That's how it all fits together. There's no new thing under the sun. The same principles that governed the world during the time of Cush and Nimrod and Semiramis, the same tenets of belief that led to the destruction of the world prior to the flood, still dictate the actions and the beliefs of the quote-unquote elite to this very day.
The postseason is here, and the playoff.
You see how it's getting brighter and brighter?
Playoffs are all about adjustments. The team that can make the best adjustments will advance.
That shining light is illuminating Kobe Bryant.
Will advance in the playoffs and eventually win the championship.
Now you see how you're going inside of his brain? You're literally watching through his eyes.
Championship in June. Okay, here, Chauncey Billups' spine, right? He has literally no vision of Shannon Brown right now.
Yes, so in other words, he has something in common with you, because you have no vision of Shannon Brown either.
Right now. Okay, but you'll see we have the weak side corner filled with Luke Walton. You see J.R. Smith is sitting there ready to rotate. So if I make that skip pass to Shannon right now, J.R. Smith can rotate to him.
Yes, and that's why Shannon Brown would pass down to Luke Walton on the baseline for the wide open three. Don't try to make excuses for why you did not pass the ball, Kobe Bryant. We all know what you are. You're a shot jacker.
right? And then here they go in a full rotation. They'll close out to Rook in the corner, and their defense stabilizes. So I have to think, okay, after watching that and seeing that game tape.
And of course, it led to a miss. That is the one thing that Kobe Bean Bryant was the best at in NBA history, missing shots. That is a fact.
How do we counter that? How can I put my teammates in a situation in which we take apart this defensive
Very easy. All you have to do is move the ball, Kobe Bryant. Stop taking bad shots.
strategy? So what I decided to do, you notice on that last action, the corner was filled.
Now, did you hear what this fool said? He said what I decided to do. No, you mean when Phil Jackson and Tex Winter called you into the film room, what they decided to do was to tell you, Kobe, your teammates were open. Here's what we're going to do to help you out. We're gonna utilize a little weak side action. This person is going to be open. When you're posting up and you see Chauncey looking both ways, pass him the ball. That's what they told you, Kobe Bryant.
Now what we're going to do is sneak Trevor strong side into the
You mean Tex Winter and Phil Jackson, not you.
to the dunker area, right? So we're sneaking him baseline. So what does that do? That pulls away their ability to rotate.
Yes, and that creates two open men. You actually passed to the wrong guy because Trevor was wide open. Even Pau Gasol is pointing to him. Look at Pau Gasol pointing to Trevor Ariza, and Kobe missed him.
Right? Fisher, Chauncey has no sight of him
Just like you have no sight of Trevor Ariza.
because I pulled Trevor here to the
You didn't pull him anywhere. Phil Jackson and Tex Winter are the ones who designed that play.
to the strong side.
If you would have pulled them, there would have been some type of motion or gesticulation on your part saying, come down. This was a play that was designed by Tex Winter to counter the fact that you were so selfish in the last clip.
Outside dunker. Now I told Fisher to slide
You ain't telling by anything. Knock it off, man.
to the weak side corner. Now he slides to that weak side corner. There's no one there to help him. Here, Derek slides to that corner spot there. Slides.
Once again, look at Pau Gasol pointing to Trevor Ariza right under the basket, whose hands are wide open. It's going to be an easy layup because Kenyon Martin is not going to get there in time. But because Kobe has to try to prove to people who don't know what they're watching that he's making the right decisions, and not only that he's making the right decisions, but that he's designing plays. He chose this play to show how he got Derek Fisher a wide open jump shot instead of Trevor Ariza a layup.
Slides right into it. Shot. The playoffs is all about positioning. All right, it's like, how do you put the pieces that you have?
This is also showing you how poor the help defense was by Carmelo Anthony. Another reason why he never won a championship.
On the floor in the right spots at the right time to take advantage of the defense that you're facing. The key to remember is that determination wins games. But
Now, did you notice that? When this segment first started, the pinnacle on top of the pyramid started to get brighter and brighter, representing mind activation. The 33 degrees of masonry actually represent the 33 vertebrae leading to your brain. Mind activation. Once it was illuminated, we were transported into a portal where Kobe Bryant was. Then we went through his mind and started to view the world as he sees it, because we were traveling via the quote-unquote Merkaba, as above, so below. Once he finished his divine teaching, we were transported back into the physical world. That is why it opened with the illumination on the pinnacle of the pyramid, and that's how it's ending. Once again, Kobe Bryant is a Luciferian. Okay? And for many of you, especially you brothers who are quote-unquote Afrocentrists who follow the Babylonian Kemetic Mystery School system, you'll say, well, what's so bad about that? Well, for brothers who have an understanding of the scriptures, you know that Heru represents the left-hand path. He's the so-called reincarnated version of Asar, who is the savior of this world and the leader of the apostasy against the Most High. But that's a whole other issue for another day. Once again, brothers, all of these prominent athletes and entertainers, they're worshipers of Baal. They must perform a blood sacrifice. Also understand that the pyramid represents the portal or the doorway. That was also the symbol for the mother goddess, the triangle or the pyramid, what they call the delta. You walked through that pathway and you went from the physical world into the spirit world. Once again, that is why the pinnacle of that pyramid got brighter and brighter before we were transported into the film room with Kobe, who represents the divine sage, or at least that is how he's casting himself. I'll probably do a little epilogue to this video here.